Archaeologists have discovered a vast tunnel under an ancient Egyptian temple that may lead to Cleopatra's lost tomb.
Archaeologists have stumbled upon an ancient tunnel that could solve one of history's greatest mysteries, Cleopatra's tomb. This hidden passageway, lost for centuries, could finally reveal the resting place of Egypt's most infamous queen. The question is, will it be the key to unlocking the secrets of Cleopatra's final days, or just another dead end? Join us as we find out more about it. Let's go way back in history for a second. Cleopatra was born sometime around 69 or 70 BCE, with her dad being none other than the king of Egypt, Ptolemy XII. The whole family was a part of this Macedonian dynasty started by Ptolemy I, an old friend of Alexander the Great. Cleopatra wasn't just a royal though, she was also very smart, speaking loads of languages and being really well educated. Now, when her father passed away in 51 BCE, Cleopatra ended up in the top job, Queen of Egypt. But she had to share the throne with her younger brother, Ptolemy XIII. As you can imagine, sibling rivalry kicked into high gear. Her brother and his supporters weren't thrilled about sharing the power, so they forced her to leg it from Egypt in 49 BCE. But Cleopatra wasn't about to give up. She started gathering troops to take back what was rightfully hers. Meanwhile, this Roman Julius Caesar arrived in Alexandria after winning a spat with his rivalry Pompey. Cleopatra, ever the opportunist, snuck in to meet Caesar and persuaded him to back her claim. And voila! With Caesar's help, she beat her brother, who ended up drowning in the Nile. With her brother out of the picture, Cleopatra took the throne again. She also had a baby boy with Caesar named Ptolemy XV Caesar, but people called him Caesarion. She even tagged along with Caesar to Rome in 46 BCE and stuck around till his infamous assassination in 44 BCE. After that, she headed back to Egypt and shared the rule with her son Caesarion and her other brother, Ptolemy XIV, who she might have poisoned later. Next, she got close to Mark Antony, who was part of a three-man band ruling Rome after Caesar was out of the picture. Antony and Cleopatra got married in 36 BCE, and Antony acknowledged Caesarion as Caesar's rightful heir. He even handed over a bunch of territories in the eastern Mediterranean to Cleopatra. But Antony's moves rubbed Octavian, another member of the Roman ruling trio and Caesar's adopted son, the wrong way. Accusing them of treason, Octavian declared war on Antony and Cleopatra. Fast forward to the naval battle of Actium in 31 BCE. Octavian won and Antony and Cleopatra were chased back to Alexandria. Antony, mistakenly thinking Cleopatra had died, took his own life. Cleopatra then ended her own life with a poisonous snakebite. She was just 39. When Cleopatra died, that was it for the Ptolemaic dynasty and the independence of Egypt. Octavian, adding another feather to his cap, annexed Egypt to the Roman Empire. Caesarion was captured and later killed. Octavian even had Cleopatra's body brought back to Rome as a sort of victory trophy, although some say he might have later allowed Antony and Cleopatra to be buried together back in Egypt. But Cleopatra's final resting place remains a total mystery. She supposedly died in 30 BCE and was buried with Mark Antony in a mausoleum, but despite all the best efforts, no one has been able to find this place. Moving forward to the Middle Ages, some travelers and writers said they'd seen or even visited the tomb, but their stories were a bit hazy and not really trustworthy. There was an Arabic geographer in the 12th century, Al-Idrisi, who said he saw this big pyramid with two statues on top. These statues were supposedly representing Cleopatra and Antony, but no one has ever found this pyramid. In our time, a lot of people have been looking for the tomb in and around Alexandria, but haven't found it yet. But there are a lot of possible places to look, like the underwater ruins of Cleopatra's palace and other ancient buildings. They fell into the Mediterranean Sea because of coastal erosion and subsidence. Since the 1990s, people have been conducting underwater missions to map and excavate these ruins. But there's one place that's getting a lot of attention as a possible spot where Cleopatra might be buried. It's called the Temple of Taposiris Magna. It's near the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, close to Alexandria. Now, Alexandria is important because it was the capital of Egypt when Cleopatra ruled. The Temple of Taposiris Magna was dedicated to two Egyptian gods, Osiris and Isis. Osiris ruled the underworld, while Isis, his wife and sister, was known as the goddess of magic, healing and fertility. Now, Cleopatra thought of herself as Isis and Mark Antony considered himself Osiris. They believed they were the living versions of these gods. The discovery of this temple goes back to 1801. A Frenchman, Napoleon Bonaparte, led an expedition and found it, But it wasn't until 200 years later in 2005 that archaeologists really started to explore the temple. A team made up of Egyptian and Dominican archaeologists led by Dr. Kathleen Martinez started excavating the place. They've uncovered statues, coins, inscriptions, jewelry, and even mummies from the time when Cleopatra was alive. All these finds are fascinating, sure, but they've also found something even more exciting. There's evidence that the temple itself was modified by Cleopatra. There's a foundation stone they found with her cartouche on it. That's her royal name. The most interesting find at the Temple of Taposiris Magna isn't something on the surface, but underneath it. The team has found a complicated system of tunnels that stretch out for over a mile under the temple. They think these tunnels were a part of some religious ritual. They would bury sacred items and animals in chambers underground as a way to honor Isis and Osiris. Now Dr. Martinez has an idea. She's thinking these tunnels might lead straight to Cleopatra's tomb. Dr. Martinez believes it makes sense given what we know about Cleopatra's personality and strategy. Because you see, Cleopatra didn't want to fall into Octavian's hands. Octavian wanted to capture her alive and show her off in Rome as some kind of trophy. So it's obvious that she would want to be buried in a place where Octavian couldn't find her. Dr. Martinez managed to get the green light from the Egyptian authorities to keep exploring these tunnels. And guess what? They've even got underwater parts. Yes, underwater tunnels. They could contain sunken structures, and who knows, maybe they're related to Cleopatra's tomb. Along with that, Dr. Martinez and a team have also found 16 mummies. But 2 of them were not just ordinary mummies. What makes them special is that they have gold-foiled tongues stuck in their mouths. The archaeologists, with their keen understanding of ancient customs, believe that this strange practice had a very specific purpose. The ancient embalmers who prepared these bodies for the afterlife stuck these gold-foiled tongues in the mummies' mouths so that they would be able to speak when they got there. The gold-foiled tongues were not just a means for communication in the afterlife, though. They might also be a sign that these mummies were people of high social standing or wealth during their lifetime. Gold, after all, has always been a symbol of richness and power, even back in the days of ancient Egypt. One of them was wrapped in something that's called gilded cartonnage, a fancy term for layers of linen or papyrus plastered together. But this wasn't any old cartonnage. Oh no, this one was jazzed up with gold and had pictures of Osiris on it. The other golden mummy is just as interesting. This one was found wearing a crown that had a mix of scary and divine, featuring horns and a cobra snake. And that's not all, it also had a necklace with a falcon symbol, which represents the god Horus. What's even more intriguing is that the 2 mummies aren't just unique for their gold decorations, but also the time that they lived in, the Ptolemaic period. That's the era when Egypt was ruled by a Greek family that descended from one of Alexander the Great's friends, a general of his. And this whole period went from 332 BC to 30 BC, and the very last queen of this mixed-up dynasty was none other than Cleopatra. Dr. Martinez and her team have been on this quest for over 10 years now, trying to find Cleopatra's tomb. They're pretty convinced that Cleopatra's tomb might be somewhere within the complex of the Temple of Taposiris Magna. But as you can guess, finding Cleopatra's tomb isn't a walk in the park. It's possible that the tomb was hidden on purpose or even destroyed by Cleopatra's enemies. And to add another layer of complexity, part of the temple complex is underwater now, thanks to rising sea levels and earthquakes over time. What do you think lies in that temple as we dig deeper? Let us know in the comments. See you in the next one.